Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you know who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. We have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and all of this other BS.
Karoline Leavitt entered the set with a calm and confident demeanor that only came from knowing exactly what she was about to face. The atmosphere around her felt charged with tension as she sat down across from Whoopi Goldberg and the other hosts of The View. But Karoline wasn't intimidated. She had prepared for this moment for weeks. It was her turn to speak up, to challenge the woman who had spent years pushing a progressive narrative on national TV, often without considering the facts. Karoline knew this was a rare opportunity, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. As the cameras began rolling, Whoopi's icy gaze met Karoline's. The usual light chatter of the show filled the air, but Karoline could feel the weight of the moment settling in. Whoopi, known as the self-proclaimed queen of the table, had built a reputation for dominating conversations. But Karoline had a different plan for today. She had been invited to discuss the latest political hot topic, one that had sparked a huge divide across the country. But Karoline wasn't just here to have a casual discussion. She wasn't interested in playing nice or giving a rehearsed answer. She had a point to make, and she was going to make it loud and clear. Whoopi opened the conversation with her usual flair, a theatrical introduction designed to set the tone. Karoline, it's great to have you here. But I have to ask, what's your take on the idea that conservative views are out of touch with the modern world? That maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop holding on to outdated ideas? Karoline smiled, unshaken. She leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with Whoopi, her expression sharp and deliberate. Well, Whoopi, it's funny you should ask, she began, her voice smooth but with a playful edge. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I have to say, maybe it's your progressive views that are the ones out of touch with reality. You keep talking about how conservative ideas are outdated, but here's the thing. It's your progressive ideas that are actually starting to crumble under the weight of common sense. A low murmur swept through the audience, and the other panelists exchanged glances, some of them looking uncertain, others more curious. Whoopi's face shifted for just a second. She hadn't expected this response, but Whoopi, never one to back down from a challenge, scoffed and fired back with her usual confidence. Oh, please. You conservatives are always clutching your pearls about tradition, but let's be real, this country needs change. The people are ready for it. It's time to move forward, not backward.
Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Right.
That's what you hear.
Yeah.
When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say, they talk at you, not to you. And that's what she was doing. And she was doing it, and it's not new.
No.
But everybody's hip to you all now.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Because you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail.
Live on this program yesterday, Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Karoline.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit of, oh, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing. Because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her up.
You would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt she went to St. Ansel College, she worked for WMUR. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our...
Karoline's eyes sparkled with mischief as she leaned back in her chair, then forward again, her tone lighter but no less sharp. Right, forward to a world where cancel culture is the norm. A world where people get fired for expressing a different opinion. Where common sense is considered controversial. She paused for a moment, letting her words settle. You know, Whoopi, maybe that's the kind of change you're looking for, but I think I'll stick with something a bit more grounded in reality. The room fell quiet. Whoopi blinked, momentarily thrown off balance, but quickly regained her composure. Trying to maintain control, she pushed back, her voice rising. Oh, now we're talking about cancel culture. Please, you conservatives are just mad because you can't say whatever you want without facing consequences. Karoline chuckled softly, shaking her head. No, Whoopi. What I'm mad about is how people like you are using basic decency as a political weapon. You want to lecture the rest of us about moving forward, but every time you talk about progress, it sounds more like erasing history and rewriting everything to fit your narrative. Gasps rippled through the audience, and the tension in the room grew. Whoopi, visibly rattled, leaned in, her voice rising with intensity. You're out here pretending like your traditional values are some kind of moral high ground, but all I hear is fear of change. Fear of progress. Karoline's grin widened as she leaned in slightly, her tone still light, but with a cutting edge. Fear of progress. Whoopi, I don't fear progress. What I fear is a world where everything we've built in this country, free speech, personal responsibility, and the ability to disagree without losing your job, gets thrown out in favor of a utopia that doesn't actually exist. She paused for effect, letting her words hang in the air. That's the kind of world I'm worried about. The other hosts at the table sat frozen, unsure of how to respond. Karoline, however, was just getting started. She glanced around the table, her eyes glinting with humor, before continuing. You see, the problem with your version of progress is that it's based on a fairy tale, she said, her voice steady and clear. A fairy tale where no one gets offended, where everyone agrees, and where the truth doesn't matter as long as it fits your narrative. She paused again, allowing the weight of her words to settle in. But here's the reality: the real world doesn't work that way. You can't just wish away disagreement. You can't force people to think the same way. And guess what? That's not oppression. That's called living in a democracy. Whoopi opened her mouth to respond, but Karoline wasn't finished yet. She raised her hand, signaling for the floor once more. Her confidence was unwavering, and she wasn't going to let the conversation get sidetracked. Let's talk about the idea of progress for a moment, Karoline continued, her voice now calm but firm. Progress isn't just about change for the sake of change. Progress is about building on what works, improving the things that need improvement, and making sure that no one's voice is silenced in the process.